In an imaginary world ruled by the waters of fate, people begin to wonder whether destiny is something that truly guides their lives, or if choices can lead to different outcomes. Some believe fate is fixed, while others think decisions can change everything. One day, monsters appeared in the world, plunging the land into chaos and causing people to panic and lose hope. Some fell to the ground in fear, while others ran for their lives, chased by terrifying creatures. During one escape, a small group of humans found themselves trapped at the edge of a cliff. With nowhere else to go, they hid behind a few rocks scattered across the plain. One young girl prayed in despair, hoping the monster would not find her. But when one of her tears hit her chest, a creature appeared, drawn by the faint sound. She begged for mercy, but the monster had no sympathy and did what monsters do. Nearby, a boy with green eyes watched from behind another rock. He wondered if this place was really the Phantom Star and realized the beginner's test was harder than expected. He thought he only needed to survive for 5 minutes to complete his job change, but seeing how the others were ordinary people, he doubted anyone could last even 1 minute. The boy's name was John Kai, and he was taking a beginner's test on a planet called Phantom Star, a massive celestial body that suddenly appeared near Earth 50 years ago. Its arrival caused no gravitational disaster. But soon after, animals and plants on Earth mutated into terrible creatures called celestial monsters. Humanity could not fight them with its current technology and faced near extinction. Amid the panic, humans discovered teleportation gates appearing across Earth. Those who entered them were transported to Phantom Star in digital form. There, people found a hyper-realistic virtual world where they could choose professions, gain equipment and skills, and grow stronger, like characters in a game. Over time, they learned that when a person reached a certain level on Phantom Star, their power could return with them to Earth, allowing them to fight celestial monsters in real life. These people who entered the other world to gain power were called explorers. John Kai was one of them, but during this brutal beginner's test, all his companions were slaughtered by the test monster, leaving him alone. Cornered at the cliff's edge, he felt hopeless. He thought about his family, his sister who had worked hard to support him, and his older brother suffering from kidney failure, who needed money for surgery. John regretted that he might die here, failing them and wasting all their efforts. As the monster approached, John refused to die without a fight. Instead of waiting for death, he ran. Though injured, he barely avoided the creature's fatal blow. With no other choice, he made a desperate decision and leapt off the cliff. He believed that surviving the fall was more likely than surviving the monster's next attack. At that moment, a notification sound echoed. A system message appeared, praising his decision as a rare player action and announcing that he had triggered a 1 in a million chance to unlock a hidden profession. The transfer was successful. John Kai had obtained a secret and honorable new job. After a long fall, John landed among tree branches that softened his impact. He survived. When he woke up beside a river flowing south, he was surprised to find that all his injuries had healed. A system window appeared before him, showing a rift in space and time. From it emerged a girl-like figure who represented the system's intelligence and informed him that since his job transfer had succeeded, his attributes had been updated. He had essentially been revived with full health, and when John asked if she was the artificial intelligence that ran the system, she ignored the question and began listing his new talents. His first talent was Double, which doubled all rewards or punishments, with a 1% chance of multiplying them tenfold. Since he triggered the talent immediately, he gained another one called Super Critical, which increased attack damage 200 times but had only a 1% success rate. When John checked his status window, he saw his 4 main attributes totaled 36 points, nearly twice what most beginners had after a job change. He realized this boost came from his double talent, meaning he would level up twice as fast as normal players. The super critical talent also amazed him. Even though the chance of success was small, its potential damage was enormous. Looking around, John noticed a weapon stuck in the riverbed, one often used by monsters. He decided to retrieve it. At first, he had only wanted to complete the test and earn some money for his brother's surgery, but now that he had a hidden profession, he saw greater possibilities. Still, this was just the first step. To pass the beginner's test, every player needed to reach the city of Shino within 7 days. The area was filled with monsters, and dying meant being sent back to Earth, a setback only the rich could afford, since re-entering Phantom Star cost a lot. Just then, a loud roar echoed from the forest. John hid behind a tree, recognizing the sound. A huge serpent was attacking a terrified young man who fought with his eyes closed, throwing clumsy punches surrounded by faint energy. It was Yuan Zhu, John's old friend. Realizing the danger, John shouted to him not to be afraid and rushed out to help. When Yuan saw John, he panicked, urging him to run away because the snakes were too poisonous and fast for beginners. But John attacked with precision, throwing his weapon and killing one of the serpents instantly. Yuan was shocked by his friend's strength. John had planned his move carefully, using Yuan as a distraction to strike from behind. The remaining snakes turned on him, baring their fangs. Yuan warned him about their superior speed, but John dodged easily, showing incredible agility after his system upgrade. Yuan watched in disbelief as his friend moved faster than humanly possible. John realized his boosted attributes made him as strong as a level 2 player, while the snakes were only level 1. He tightened his grip on his weapon and asked Yuan to keep the creatures distracted. After a brief but intense fight, all the snakes were dead. Yuan hugged John in relief, praising his skills, but John brushed it off, saying he had only been lucky to complete his job change and gain the player profession. Yuan didn't quite understand, but proudly said that his own profession, martial artist, was also decent, ranked 5th in the Divine Glory realm. On Phantom Star, job quality depended on the materials purchased before entering. The wealthy could afford high-tier professions like paladin or assassin, while the poor were often stuck with weak roles like beggar or drunkard. John teased Yuan, asking if he had borrowed money from a loan shark to afford his class, but Yuan avoided the question. They decided to sell the materials from the snakes later, since monster parts and equipment could be converted into tradable cards. Soon after, they noticed a young girl wandering through the forest. She introduced herself as Sway and asked to join their team for safety. John refused at first, explaining they could barely protect themselves. But Sway pleaded, saying she was a healer who could cure poison and even use venom to strengthen their weapons. Remembering his near-death experience, John realized her class could be vital and agreed to let her join. Yuan whispered that John probably just wanted to impress the girl, which made John roll his eyes. Meanwhile, on Earth, in the city of D in the Divine Glory Kingdom, researchers monitored the Phantom Star's portals. A scientist commented on how advanced the explorers' wrist devices had become, able to track players in real time. A woman named Su Lannan, Sway's older sister, asked how the new players, especially her sister, were doing. The scientist replied that most beginners had already been eliminated, but her sister had formed a team with 2 others. Lannan sighed, worried, since larger groups tended to attract stronger monsters. A few minutes later, the scientists detected 2 human-faced monsters approaching the area. Lannan grew pale. She knew such creatures could wipe out all the beginners, and her sister stood no chance against them. Death on Phantom Star did not kill players in real life, but the experience felt painfully real, often leaving deep psychological scars. Lannan feared she would soon need to send her sister for therapy. Then something unexpected happened. The scientist announced that her sister was still alive, and both monsters had been killed. Lannan was speechless. Moments earlier, in the virtual world, the 2 monsters had appeared before John's group. Everyone fled in terror, knowing the creatures were far too strong. John realized his friends were slower than him and would soon be caught. He told Yuan and Sway to keep running, while he stayed behind to hold off the monsters. Yuan begged him not to, but John insisted someone had to buy time for the others. He stabbed one of the monsters straight through the chest, making it roar in pain. For a second, he thought he had won, but then the creature struck him hard, sending him crashing into a rock. It was clear that the monster's endurance was far beyond his strength. As John struggled to get up, Sway began to cry and called Yuan for help, but he was frozen in fear. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yuan's mother served tea to a visitor who had helped her son join Phantom Star. She admitted that Yuan was strong but timid and would probably run if he ever faced a monster. The visitor agreed but noted that despite his fear, Yuan always helped others in danger. Back in the fight, Yuan heard Sway's cries and remembered John's sacrifice. Shaking with fear, he finally charged at the monsters, his fists glowing with energy. He shouted that if they were brothers, they would live and die together. With newfound courage, Yuan struck the human-faced monster with a powerful blow straight to its chest. John wonders if Yuan can really defeat such a powerful enemy with only one strike. He realizes that even if Yuan cannot deal high damage yet, the control and pressure of a martial artist are truly impressive and deserving of their high rank. It is not only Yuan who is helping. Sway also steps in to heal John's injuries from the monster's attack. John is surprised and asks why she is still there when she does not have a combat class. Sui, embarrassed but firm, says that a healer must heal the wounded and cannot run, even if she is scared. She explains that her father died during a previous monster wave because there was no healer to support him. He kept fighting until he fell. She does not want to repeat that mistake by abandoning her teammates. After a short time under her healing ability, John feels his body recovering completely. He stands up with excitement and praises Sui for her courage. But Sui says the three of them together still are not doing enough damage to kill even one human-faced monster. John then remembers what Sui said earlier about using snake venom to strengthen weapons. He reminds her of this and drags over a snake corpse. He asks if she can heal Yuan and coat his weapon with venom at the same time. Sui says she is not sure she can do both at once, but she will try her hardest. John understands that this is their only chance to win. He knows he himself cannot endure a direct fight with a human-faced monster for long, but Yuan can block the monster due to his martial artist abilities. Yuan's damage alone is not enough to kill the monster, but Sui can boost him. So the three of them together form a full battle group, Yuan as the shield, Sui as the healer and support, and John as the damage. After some time working, Sui finishes extracting the venom from the snakes and applies it to the tip of John's weapon. John moves forward toward the monster again, knowing his normal power is not very high, but the venom may turn the fight. On the way, he asks Yuan to pin down and restrain one of the human-faced monsters so that he can strike. Yuan understands immediately and continues to act as the team's shield. John realizes that as long as the three of them fight like a real unit, and each person does their job in sync with the others, even a so-called beginner killer like a human-faced monster can be hunted by new players. John then leaps at the monster and attacks with his venom-tipped weapon, striking a vital spot. The impact explodes with force through the forest, and the sound echoes everywhere. The system informs him that he has killed a level 2 human-faced monster. The others stare in shock. Their plan actually worked. After the shock fades, relief and happiness spread through the group. The remaining human-faced monster starts shaking with fear after watching its partner die, realizing that the same thing might happen to it. John prepares to fight again, thinking to himself that teamwork really works and that even though another monster remains, they can take it down if they stay organized. The creature is afraid but still charges forward, driven by pure animal instinct, as their formation activates again with near-perfect timing. Back in the monitoring room on Earth, Sui's older sister is angry and confused, as the data from the explorers' wrist devices shows that a team of beginners just killed 2 human-faced monsters, even though a single one of those creatures could destroy an entire group of new players. The scientist watching the feed says that based on the readings from Sui's watch, she does not have the power to kill such monsters, and the other 2 members of her team do not show high damage output since they are still only level 1. That means the killer must be the explorer named John Kai, who is in Sui's group, but when they try to read his class, his profession does not appear in the system. Sui's sister, Su Lannan, thinks this should not be possible and believes that someone who can kill 2 human-faced monsters must have an amazing profession, making her wonder who this boy really is. Back on Phantom Star, the system notifies the team that they can collect the monster corpses. All 3 of them collapse on the ground, totally exhausted, as Yuan praises John for his quick thinking. Sui points out that now that they know they can beat human-faced monsters, they should be able to complete the tests safely. But John says they do not need to rush to the final destination, explaining that there is still plenty of time to reach the city of Shino, the goal of the beginner test, and tells them to relax and rest. They are confused, so he explains further. He says that after the test ends, ranking points are counted, and rewards go to those with the highest points. The equipment given by the military to the top players is extremely useful and helps beginners survive later. Since they can now hunt monsters and turn them into points, they should aim for the highest ranking instead of only running for the finish. He then asks his teammates if they are willing to hunt more monsters with him to farm points and get better rewards in the end. They are unsure at first, but a few hours later, Yuan is standing in the forest acting as bait. Surrounded by snakes, he is shaking so badly that he almost cries and asks if he will be the first one to die. From high up in a tree, John tells him to be brave, reminding Yuan that he is a martial artist who can take hits and fight. From another spot, he reminds them that they also have Sui, a healer, who can support them if anything happens. When the snakes move in to attack Yuan, John jumps down. He charges in to help before Yuan is overwhelmed. The system reports that John has killed 3 level 1 land snakes, raising his experience to 10 points out of the 100 he needs. John thinks quickly about the rules he read earlier. Only the person who deals the killing blow gains experience from the monster. Since he is currently the only one who can safely kill enemies, they all agreed to let him gather experience first. If he levels up faster, he will be able to protect them more easily. That is the plan. One day passes as the group keeps fighting non-stop. After enough battles, the system congratulates John for reaching level 2, and since his talent doubles his gains, his growth is even faster. He is pleased that after only one day of hunting land snakes, he has already reached level 2. Sui congratulates him, and Yuan asks how his stats changed after leveling up. John answers that he received 20 attribute points and now has 56 in total, though he admits it does not sound like much to him. Sui and Yuan are stunned, realizing that this number is far from normal. Yuan says that leveling up increases physical strength, agility, and mental power, but normal people only get 10 attribute points per level. Sui adds that 56 total points is something close to a level 4 explorer, and John is only level 2. John explains that this is part of his class, which can double his rewards but also double any punishment. Even though his teammates do not fully understand, Sui can tell it is an extremely powerful profession, while Yuan suddenly feels discouraged because, compared to John, his own martial artist class now seems less impressive. At that moment, a rift opens in front of them again, and the system appears in the form of a girl who explains that when a player reaches level 2, they normally unlock one skill, but because of John's special talent, he will receive 2 skills instead. John is thrilled, realizing that he will now have 2 profession skills. The system explains the first ability, called Phantom Hand Flying Cards, which gives any thrown item a 20% armor-piercing effect, or 200% if the item is a card, though the mental energy cost is doubled. Then the system explains the second ability, called Phantom Eye, which increases his vision range and tracking ability by 50%, but doubles his mental energy use while active, and it can also be upgraded. Both of these are long-range abilities, and John realizes that his profession is likely focused on ranged attacks, which makes him happy, so he tells his team that with these new skills, they should go after stronger monsters for more experience. Yuan, meanwhile, starts to feel just a little jealous. 2 days later, in the monitoring room on Earth, the chief researcher is speaking with an instructor. She reports that even after 2 full days, Sui's team is still alive. Su Lanin comments that the group's survival means John must still have plenty of power left. Suddenly, soldiers rush into the room. A guard announces that the beginner test area is about to get more dangerous. The higher authorities have detected that Country L has sent invaders into their nation's beginner zone, describing it as a rare, large-scale invasion. The supreme commander of the Central River City District, Wei Wying, arrives and orders immediate preparation for this situation. Su Lanin, worried, asks if a mass invasion is really happening. Wei Wying confirms that even if the report later turns out to be false, they will not lower their guard. The explanation horrifies Lanin, who knows exactly what these invaders do. The invaders are trained players from Country L, who enter other nations' beginner zones to hunt and murder new players. The rules of the Phantom Star beginner test state that advanced players are not allowed to enter and help their own rookies, so normally the test is meant to be fair and solo. But Country L has a special profession that allows its own natives to break this rule and enter other countries' novice zones as attackers. These invaders torture and kill foreign beginners in brutal ways to traumatize them. Many become too afraid to ever enter Phantom Star again, which lowers the number of future strong players in rival countries. Su Lanin slams her fist down in anger. She says her little sister does not have the mental strength to endure that kind of cruelty. Wei Wying orders psychological support preparations for all remaining beginners, since the invasion has already begun, and the mood in the room turns dark as many now believe there may be no survivors in this test. Back on Phantom Star, John's group walks through the forest, calm for the moment and looking for more monsters to gain experience. Suddenly, John senses something hiding in the bushes behind them and quickly stops, raising his weapon. Yuan asks what he is doing, because they already passed that spot earlier and saw nothing. John answers with a serious face that the real threat is coming from farther away than they first thought. John throws his spear with full force toward the area where he sensed movement. The spear flies a long distance, smashes through branches, and finally hits something. John announces that he hit a target and runs forward, telling the others to come see. Yuan mutters that John must be imagining things, but he still follows, along with Sui. Even though it is nighttime and the forest is dark, they find that John's throw killed a level 2 short spine wild boar. Yuan is shocked, unable to believe that John landed a killing shot from that far away on a level 2 beast. John stays calm and tells them not to panic, explaining that this is just his new ability in action. The system then asks if John wants to collect the boar's remains, nodding that the animal's spines can be turned into weapons. John agrees immediately. He thinks to himself that Phantom Hand has already increased the power of his thrown attacks, while Phantom Eye lets him see in detail at long range, almost like slow motion and a scope combined. This is why he can now throw with deadly accuracy from so far away. John tells his teammates that he only needs one more experience point to reach level 3, and that they should find one more target. But before they can move, mocking laughter comes from the river nearby. A voice calls out and comments that the team is very lucky. Men rise from the water, a group of invaders who act as if they are there for entertainment rather than survival, casually talking about playing around with the bodies of new players. John steps forward and demands to know who they are, while Sway becomes frightened. One of the strangers tells them not to be scared, and calmly says that they are not bad people. The leader draws his weapon and says that all he wants to do is skin the beginners, hang them up to drain their blood, or maybe peel John first and lure human-faced monsters to eat the others alive. Another invader climbs up from the water and adds that their superiors only have a single goal this time. John is visibly shaken, but the leader keeps smiling with an evil look. He explains that the goal of their superiors is to make sure that every beginner from Glory City fails the test. Sway suddenly realizes that these men are the invaders from Country L who break into Phantom Star's beginner zones to kill new players from other regions. Her words terrify both John and Yuan. Sway then warns that all of these attackers are level 3 or higher. She also senses that the strongest one is level 5. John feels his confidence drop. Even facing several trained enemies is bad enough, but with one of them being level 5, John knows his current strength might let him handle a level 4 explorer, yet a level 5 opponent would mean certain death unless he levels up. The invader leader orders his men to start the massacre. John immediately yells to his teammates to run with him, telling them to split up as part of his plan to survive. The leader laughs at how fast the beginners run and asks if everyone from Shino City is this cowardly. He then orders 2 assassins to chase the one running alone, who is John, while telling the other 2 to stay behind and handle the rest of the group. The 2 assassins who go after John are both level 3. They sprint after him through the forest and comment that he runs well, but they are already close to catching him. Then suddenly, John vanishes from their sight. The assassins are confused and stop. One of them grins and says that if the kid wants to play hide and seek, he will just cut off the kid's feet when he finds him. At that exact moment, John's weapon shoots out from the bushes and flies straight at the more confident assassin. Seeing the incoming blade, the assassin laughs and assumes he can block an attack from a beginner. But the spear pierces his chest with huge force and sends him crashing through trees. The second assassin stares in shock. He runs toward his partner, asking if he is all right, only to realize he is already dead. John steps out from behind the trees. Holding 3 more throwing weapons between his fingers, he taunts the survivor and asks if this is really all the strength an invader has. The last assassin activates his wrist device, identifies John as a beginner from Shino, and demands to know how a level 2 player just killed his level 3 partner. Then he sees John's data, showing that John has 60 attribute points despite only being level 2. The assassin is stunned, but John is in no mood to talk, throwing his projectiles without mercy as they strike the remaining assassin's body. The attacker drops to his knees, groaning in pain in front of the boy he was supposed to kill. John thinks the fight went well. His stats are already equal to those of a level 4 explorer, so defeating a level 3 invader is not hard. He also remembers his real plan. Telling the team to split up was not just panic, but a way to lure a smaller part of the enemy away so he could kill them one by one. He also remembers something he learned on Earth. When an explorer dies, you can take their wrist device and claim their experience. The system now confirms that John has killed 2 level 3 explorers. Each one is worth 100 experience points. John immediately agrees to absorb the experience from both of them. After taking 100 points from each assassin, John finally reaches level 3, and the system congratulates him for leveling up. Now that he has reached level 3, the explorer's stats rise sharply, and he is already halfway to leveling up again, with a total of 76 attribute points, higher than the average for a level 5 player, which is around 60. He loots the fallen invaders. He takes one enemy's watch and pulls his weapon back out of the other enemy's body. With his new strength, he is ready to return and save his friends. While John was handling his enemies, the rest of the team was struggling. Yuan and Sui were being pushed to their limit. One of the invaders commented that he did not expect to meet real high-grade classes like a martial artist and a healer in a small beginner zone like this. Seeing such good professions on two harmless-looking new players, the invaders decide to torture them to death. Sui keeps healing Yuan as hard as she can, begging to know if the team leader will really come back. Yuan, badly wounded, tries to calm her, saying that John will definitely return and explaining that even if John is the type to run when girls chase him, he always shows up when his friends or family are in danger. No matter how bad it looks, he will come back. The invaders finish playing around and announce that they are about to skin the two beginners alive. Before they can begin, John bursts out of the trees like a true hero. Without hesitation, he fires several sharpened wild boar spines. The strikes are fast and deadly. Several of the enemies are killed instantly. Yuan lights up with happiness, knowing in his heart that John would return. The surviving invader captain panics. He shouts into the empty forest, demanding to know who is attacking them. He cannot even see the source and wonders if the city of Shino somehow sent a special profession into the beginner zone. He realizes the situation is now dangerous for him and decides to run before the attacker shows himself. Sui notices that the enemy captain is trying to escape like a coward, but John is not going to let him go. He saw what the captain did to Yuan, and he refuses to forgive it. John takes the spear he got from the human-faced monster and hurls it. The spear strikes the fleeing captain in the back with brutal force. The man groans, crashes forward, and dies face down. With all of the invaders killed, John runs over and asks Sui if she is all right, and she sees that he really did come back. But there is no time to relax, as Yuan is in very bad shape, and Sui explains in panic that she can no longer heal him. His injuries are too severe. Yuan coughs and speaks weakly, saying that he knew John would come back, but this time he will not be able to go with him any farther. Then he falls to the ground. Yuan lies on the ground, barely hanging on, and with the last of his strength, he thanks them for everything they have been through together, saying that what they shared will become a great memory. His eyes begin to close as he tells them to continue forward without him and do their best to pass the judgment trial. Sui breaks down in tears, blaming herself and believing that part of the reason Yuan is dying is because she was not strong enough to protect him. John lowers his head, calls Yuan's name, and then, without hesitation, drags one of the still living invaders over and drops the body in Yuan's lap. He calmly explains that he left 6 invaders alive on purpose, each one wounded but not dead, so his teammates could get the finishing blow, level up from it, and recover. Sui remembers how the system works. When you kill an explorer in Phantom Star, you gain experience and your body returns to a healthy state, while Yuan realizes he may have just made a dramatic farewell speech for nothing and feels embarrassed. John, seeing that his battle brother was being dramatic on purpose, smiles. He tells the group they can now take revenge on the invaders, saying the enemy's survival now depends entirely on the team, and that the team is free to show them what true justice looks like. The captured invader realizes what is about to happen to him and goes pale with fear. The team says that what is about to happen is called karma, the proper greeting to give to visitors like these. Meanwhile, in Country L, in the Data Research Institute and the Stealth Operations Department, chaos breaks out. One by one, all the invaders wake up in the real world after dying in Phantom Star, remembering being wiped out by a beginner from Shino. The higher officer in Country L demands to know what happened. He asks how their elite invaders could have been destroyed and wonders if the enemy country now has a profession that can counter them. At the same time, in the kingdom of Shino, a scientist informs an instructor that the news is bad. He says that Sui made contact with the invaders. When Su Lannon hears this, she panics, knowing that her younger sister is not prepared for something like that. The Supreme Commander says that, sadly, no beginner has ever escaped from the invaders before, and that they need to prepare psychological support. But the scientist quickly says that is not actually the problem. He looks at the main screen and explains that, according to the system data, Sui not only survived but also leveled up. Everyone in the room is shocked, unable to understand it. The commander asks how a new player could level up after being found by those killers, guessing that maybe the invaders helped them hunt monsters, but the scientist rejects that idea. The only answer left is that Sui's group killed the invaders. The commander is so stunned, he drops his glass of water and jumps to his feet. He demands the full data on Sui's team. The researcher quickly pulls up the status of each teammate and confirms that all of them have reached at least level 3. The commander is thrilled, pointing out that it would be impossible to reach level 3 so quickly unless they had defeated the invaders. Su Lanin is still unsure, saying that her sister is only a healer and that Yuan is a martial artist who cannot deal huge damage. That means only one possibility remains. John Kai must have killed all the invaders himself, yet the military still cannot read his full level or profession. The scientist then reveals that he has discovered why the system cannot identify John's data. John is wearing an old-style watch, and although everyone who enters Phantom Star needs a watch to track their status, his device is an old-generation model that no longer connects to the network. The military stopped supporting that model more than 10 years ago. The instructor is angry that someone is using such outdated original gear, while the commander, Wei Wying, finds the situation very interesting. He orders the researcher to gather all possible real-life information on John. Back on Phantom Star, Yuan is amazed by the way his body was restored to normal after leveling up. Sui is also excited to feel her own physical strength jump. Yuan says he gained a skill from his martial artist class that lets him strike nearby enemies with force, while Sui says she gained a healer skill called the Doctor's Heart, which makes her healing ability much stronger than before. John thinks that everything is going as he expected, nodding that healer classes may not be flashy, but are extremely practical in real combat. Yuan then asks John if he is now strong enough to finish off all the remaining invaders, since John should now be a higher level than him. They cannot believe he reached level 4 so quickly, and when they see his total attribute points, now 96, they realize he is as strong as a level 8 explorer. John calmly explains that he is already level 4, leaving both of them shocked. John explains that while he was escaping, he killed the 2 invaders who chased him, which brought him to level 3, and after he returned and they fought together, he leveled up again. Yuan groans with frustration, saying it is unfair that their leader is still stronger than him, and Sui then asks what they should do next. John tells them that he heard the captain mention the invaders they fought were Team 2, which means Team 1 is still out there, and their next goal is to hunt down that team. Half a day later, in another part of the beginner zone, several enemy soldiers from Team 1 are walking through the forest, laughing and talking. They mock the news that Team 2 was wiped out by beginners, joking that Team 2 should retire in shame. The captain warns them not to get careless, saying that when the commander mentioned the threat, he sounded serious. One of the invaders laughs and asks why they should worry, saying the beginner zone has a level cap of 5, and their group is full of level 5 players. Hidden behind a fallen tree nearby, John and his team prepare their ambush, counting 9 level 5 enemies ahead as the group grows nervous. John tells them not to panic, saying that even if he cannot kill the enemies instantly, he can still hurt them. But he adds that if they do nothing, the invaders will just hunt other beginners, so waiting is not an option, they have to strike first. The enemy captain spots movement at the edge of the forest. He sees John rushing in with a spear. The invaders quickly realize that he is only a level 4 novice, and one of them is impressed that a player at that level has survived this long in such a dangerous zone. The captain grins, calling it a lucky find, and orders his men to kill John so they can count it as a military accomplishment. The invaders chase John. This puts him in an even worse spot than before, because now the group is large and organized. John's team sticks to their plan, aiming to lure the enemies into position so Yuan can use his new skill to knock them all off balance and let the group finish them. The problem is that this enemy squad is too big, and if any of them survive the first hit and escape, they could warn the others. Still, John's group comes up with a version of the plan that can wipe all of them at once. John charges forward, gathering electric energy around his body as his aura grows stronger and more dangerous, knowing he might have to spill blood just to make them commit to chasing him. The movement enrages some of the invaders and confuses others. They cannot believe that a beginner is charging them head-on instead of running. Seconds before contact, one of the invaders laughs at John and walks straight at him. He swings his weapon and slashes John's arm, ordering him to get out of the way, but John takes the hit without blocking and keeps running. He thinks to himself that he is still not close enough. The invaders surround him tighter and tighter, but he still needs them even closer for the trap to work. He keeps running past them and dodging their strikes just to pull them in deeper. Their captain grows annoyed, and demands to know why his men cannot stop one level 4 kid. He says that all of them are level 5, and that it should be impossible for a lower-ranked player to avoid every attack like this. One of the invaders checks his watch. The first scan was too fast to get full information, so he now scans with a higher-grade watch. He frowns and reports that, although he cannot read John's total stats, he can see that John's agility is around 30 points. The captain is stunned, realizing that number should not be possible. Another invader argues that this must be a mistake, since his own agility at level 5 is under 20 points, and there is no way a level 4 beginner should be faster. The captain starts to shake, knowing that high-rank watches do not usually make this kind of mistake, and suddenly realizes the real danger, that if they are all chasing someone with agility that high, the boy is not running in panic but leading them. The captain shouts to his team that they have been tricked and tells them to escape right now. But it is already too late. As the invaders start to pull back, golden lightning cracks through the sky. Yuan is in position and activates his special ability, Earthquake. He slams the ground so hard that the force lifts the invaders off their feet, throwing all of them into the air and leaving them helpless. John thanks his old friend in his mind as he surrounds himself with crackling energy, telling Yuan to leave the rest to him. He then begins his attack, launching wild boar spines with perfect aim. The invaders hit the ground one after another, and one after another they die. The entire enemy squad is wiped out almost instantly, exactly as planned. Yuan can barely believe what he just saw, staring at John and asking what kind of terrifying monster his friend has become. The system reports that John has killed 5 level 5 invaders, and after looting them, he gains 2,000 experience points, enough to reach the highest possible level in the beginner zone. John reaches level 5 and realizes that from this point forward, the amount of experience he can loot from enemies will be doubled for higher explorer levels. Sui is amazed, saying she has never seen anything like this, and when Yuan asks if they are going to power up even more, John explains that he left 4 of the enemies only half alive on purpose. Those weak survivors are for Yuan and Sui to finish, so they can gain their own experience. He says that earlier he had to kill most of the enemies himself to level up fast and protect them, but now he has leveled enough. After everyone gets enough points, they will head to the finish line, and Yuan and Sui are excited because it is finally their turn to evolve. As they move through the forest looking for more enemies to level up the team, John tells the others to stay alert. He says there are still many monsters on the way to the end of the test, and that the closer they get, the stronger and scarier those monsters become, with the possibility of even a final boss waiting in the beginner area. A roar shakes the entire forest, making all 3 of them jump. They follow the source of the sound and find 2 dead human-faced monsters. Their bodies are torn apart, heavily mutilated. Sui recognizes the corpses, and Yuan nervously asks what kind of creature is strong enough to do that to monsters of this level. Curious, John activates his phantom eye skill to sharpen his sight and focus on the area. He notices a faint golden glow in the distance. He realizes that something covered in golden energy is what killed those 2 monsters. Sui is confused and interested, but before any of them can say more, something attacks. An energy blast fires from behind them. Yuan does not notice the attack coming as he keeps talking in fear, asking what could have done this. The energy blast hits both him and Sui, throwing them back. Right after that, the attacker charges straight at John. Yuan struggles to his feet and shouts a warning, saying that whatever it is seems strong enough to kill instantly. The creature slams into John, who does not even bother to defend. The others are shocked, but instead of being killed, John simply grabs the attacker. Now they can see what it is. It is not a giant beast, but a golden hamster. Yuan and Sui are stunned. John catches it like it's nothing and calmly says that the little creature is not fast at all, calling it a fat rat. The hamster gets angry, saying it was only caught because it wasn't paying attention and claiming that it's actually very fast. To prove it, John does something unexpected and lets it go. The hamster surrounds itself with golden energy, spins up speed, and darts forward again to attack the beginner. Yuan shouts in panic, asking why John is letting it loose and reminding him that this same creature just killed 2 human-faced monsters. John simply reaches out and catches the hamster again, doing it even more easily this time and without any effort. Then he tosses the hamster down and says it is still too slow for him. To make his point, he casually starts tossing the hamster from one hand to the other in midair, not even giving it a chance to escape. Sui and Yuan stare in disbelief, unable to understand how John became this strong so quickly. At this point, John is holding a creature that just destroyed two human-faced monsters, and that creature cannot even break free. Holding the captured hamster, John says it seems the little beast is not going to run anymore, while Yuan, stunned, keeps saying that what John just did is unbelievable. John says he does not know if this little rat can be tamed and turned into a combat companion, but either way, they should still collect the bodies of the human-faced monsters. He also points out that his teammates are almost level 4, so they should hurry and gather more experience, while Sui looks at the hamster and says it is very cute. Yuan once again feels discouraged, because compared to all this, his martial artist abilities now feel ordinary. Elsewhere in the beginner zone, another young man walks casually through the forest. He is relaxed and pleased that he has finally reached the end of the beginner judgment. Ahead of him is the finish line, the city of Shino. He climbs the long staircase leading to the gates. When he reaches the top, the huge city gate opens, and soldiers come out to greet him. They welcome him as a new Phantom Star explorer and say they will act as his guides. Their leader, a soldier named Sha Tao, places a hand on the young man's shoulder and tells him that first place has already been taken, but ranking is not everything, since just passing the trial at all is already a great result for a newcomer. The young man says he understands he is not the first to arrive, but he proudly opens his inventory to show how many monster bodies he collected and how high his level is. The soldiers are impressed, since ranking in the beginner test is based on points, and rare monster corpses can be traded for a lot of them, and Sha Tao asks how he managed to kill so many monsters. The young man laughs and brushes it off. He explains that he is the second young master of the Hua Yuan family, and that he will soon become a high-ranking member of the Xuan Wu Guild. He says he received special training before he ever entered Phantom Star. Sha Tao then realizes who this young man is. The Hua Yuan family is connected to one of the top 10 guilds in Shino, and the soldiers congratulate him, saying that with this many points, he ranks among the best in the city. The young man barely reacts, because he treats first place in this trial as only the start. With a confident and almost cruel smile, he says that given enough time, he will take control of all of Phantom Star. Meanwhile, deep in the beginner zone, John and his team continue hunting so that all three of them can level. John mentions that something feels off since they have not encountered any monsters in a while. He guesses that maybe the monsters are staying away because of the hamster, who seems to like Sui. Suddenly, a roar explodes through the trees. Sharp claws flash in the darkness. More and more enemies appear. In an instant, the group is surrounded by an entire pack of shadowless wolves. Among them stands one monster unlike the rest, its claws glowing with a deadly aura, the boss of the beginner zone, the shadowless wolf king, ready to kill every human in front of it. John finally understands why they had not seen any monsters. They had unknowingly wandered straight into the boss's territory. The wolves form a tight ring around the three explorers. Yuan is terrified and says he has heard that the Wolf King is a creature that has never been killed in the beginner zone, and anyone who meets it is as good as dead. John grips his weapon and shakes, knowing he could probably escape alone if he ran now, but Sui and Yuan would not be able to. That means there is only one choice. They have to fight, and John tells the others that running is no longer possible, and that they will kill the Wolf King together. He charges at the boss with his spear. Yuan leaps and uses his earthquake ability to crash the ground and distract the rest of the wolves. John keeps moving forward without slowing down, while Yuan slams into the dirt and splits the area around them. Sui is also determined and boosts John's weapon by coating it with poison. John asks her to back him up and then, using everything he has at once, he hurls his spear at the Wolf King. Giving everything he has, the hero tries to finish the fight against the beginner zone boss in a single attack by throwing his spear with full force at the shadowless Wolf King. But something unexpected happens, as the spear bounces off the wolf's thick hide without causing real damage. All three teammates feel a wave of fear. The Wolf King roars. The entire wolf pack responds to that order and charges, and even though the wolves are lower-level monsters, they become much more dangerous when commanded by a higher mind. They attack Sui and Yuan, landing hits, and Yuan shouts, asking if there is any other plan because they are getting overwhelmed. John thinks quickly, knowing the Wolf King's defense is extremely high, and that he cannot kill all the surrounding wolves at once to protect his teammates. In the middle of the chaos, something else happens. The golden hamster, which had been sleeping in John's hood, wakes up, looks around with an annoyed expression, realizes the situation, and blames the wolves for disturbing its rest. While John is still fighting for his life, the hamster flares with golden power. It leaps from his hood, shoots through the air at high speed, and creates shockwaves as it moves. Then, in a single burst, the hamster pierces straight into the Wolf King's chest. John is stunned, realizing that while he had not managed to get through the boss's skin at all, this small creature just bit through it. To confirm, John activates Phantom Eye, the focus ability that sharpens his sight. He looks at the wound and sees clearly that it is real, realizing that the hamster has opened a weak point and that they can win. His first spear throw failed because the boss's natural defense was too high, but with an exposed wound, it is different. John takes one of his wild boar spines and throws it like a bolt, surrounding it with crackling energy. The projectile flies and strikes directly into the open injury in the Wolf King's chest, and this time the boss reacts. It is hurt. John understands that his method is working, and that he can keep using Phantom Eye to lock onto the same wound and repeat the attack, but then something even more incredible happens. The projectile flashes with intense light. Against all odds, John's ultra-rare super critical activates, multiplying his damage by 200 times. None of his teammates understand what they are seeing. Yuan saw only a single hit, and then the boss began to fall. John himself is surprised. The system announces that he has defeated the boss of the beginner zone, and although he had planned to drag the battle out and slowly take control, luck triggered a 200 times critical hit that killed the boss instantly. And he also realizes that this is the first time his super critical has activated since he gained his hidden profession. With the Wolf King dead, the rest of the wolf pack panics and tries to run without their leader's command, and John asks if his teammates can still fight. Both Yuan and Sui say yes. John charges forward, saying that without the Wolf King, these are no longer hunters but just prey. Yuan and Sui think about everything the wolves did to them, the fear, the pain, the injuries. They decide they will not let any of the beasts escape. The three explorers attack together, and this time the fight is different. Yuan and Sui are no longer helpless as they tear through the pack with confidence. They are able to kill wolves without asking John for protection every second. After a few minutes of battle, it is over. The group has completely wiped out the entire pack, and these so-called beginners have not only survived the beginner zone, but also defeated the final boss. This is something almost no one can do, and John explains that he left some of the wolves weakened on purpose so Yuan and Sui could finish them and gain experience, after which Yuan asks what they should do next. Now that everyone has enough experience to rank up, their next step is simple: they will head for the finish line. Time passes as the group finally reaches the border of Shino City, the main stronghold of their country, inside Phantom Star. As they walk into the area, the hamster jumps out of John's hood and tries to run away, and Sui immediately worries that it will leave. John tells her not to worry, explaining that he never planned to trap it, and that since the creature helped them survive the final boss, it is free to do whatever it wants now. The team then enters the final reception hall of the beginner trial. An officer named Shatao congratulates them for passing the trial, and when John asks to see the newcomer rankings, Shatao agrees. Before the list is shown, another young man steps forward with a smug smile. He is the wealthy beginner who reached the city earlier, and says he did not expect to see someone from his family's servant class enter Phantom Star and survive this long, then offers to show the rankings to John. John is mildly surprised to see this boy, Huang Wei, already here. The rich boy looks at the ranking, proudly claims first place, and mocks John's team, calling them bottom feeders who somehow crawled up. Other followers join in, insulting John's group, calling them losers, and demanding to know how they dare to ask about rankings at all. Inside, John remembers his past with this boy, and how his sister worked in the Huang household just to save money so he could enter Phantom Star. He remembers how this same rich boy harassed his sister, and how he used John's sick brother to humiliate them both. Yuan steps forward in anger and tells Huang Wei to shut up, but John stops him and says it is fine. He apologizes to the others in the hall for the disruption, and calmly says that the rankings are going to change anyway, adding that his team will take the top 3 places. For a moment, the whole hall goes quiet. Then the rich boy and his followers burst out laughing, saying that John is just dreaming. John turns to his friends and says that they do not have to pretend anymore. Sui agrees. Yuan activates his wrist device and says he is ready. The 3 of them step up and publicly display their inventories to the ranking system. The bullies stare with their mouths open, unable to believe what they are seeing. All those monster corpses, and not just weak monsters, but rare ones, are in the hands of only 3 beginners. Huang Wei is shocked. He sees not only human-faced monsters in their inventory, but also shadowless wolves. Then he notices something else and panics when he sees the shadowless Wolf King, saying that it cannot be real and demanding to know how a group of nobodies could possibly kill the final boss of the beginner zone. John does not bother answering and says that the ranking will show them what is true and what is not. At that moment, a system notification appears as the rankings begin to update in real time. The numbers change as John's team takes the top 3 spots, forcing the arrogant rich boy to face the truth. That is not the end of it, as John's group has more than just monster corpses. They also place several wrist devices on display, the watches taken from the invaders from Country. One of the officials in the hall recognizes them immediately. Someone in the crowd shouts that this is impossible, claiming that beginners cannot defeat invaders, and pointing out that none of them there have ever even seen an invader in person, so John's team must be lying. He loudly demands that the leaders disqualify the so-called cheaters, and others start joining him as jealous voices spread through the crowd, claiming that what John's group is doing is fraud and that they should be punished, causing the room to turn against them. Then a new voice cuts in as a man steps forward and confirms that there were invaders and that John Kai and his teammates really did defeat them. He says that the military already knows about it and that his superiors instructed him to commend John Kai publicly, revealing himself as Lu Jun, vice commander of the military division. The jealous ones go quiet as it hits them that this is official recognition and that the group is not lying. Vice Commander Lu Jun then announces the rewards, saying that because of what they accomplished in the beginner zone, defeating invaders, protecting the border, and surviving, their compensation will be increased. He explains that the second and third place explorers will each receive a class equipment. He then announces that John Kai, who placed first, will receive S-class equipment. John, Sui, and Yuan are thrilled. Everyone else in the room is stunned, realizing that these rookies are about to start with high-grade gear. Now the story pauses to explain gear ranks in Phantom Star, where equipment is graded from rank F at the lowest, progressing through D, C, B, and A, with S as the highest rank. B and C class equipment is already considered very good, while a class and S class are what every serious explorer dreams of someday. The jealous boy cannot handle this. He placed fourth after the update, and he cannot accept it. He shouts that something must be wrong, insisting that since John comes from a poor family, it should not be possible for him to be better. John tells him to calm down, saying that the military has already confirmed the truth and warning that if he keeps insulting his family, things will get ugly. The jealous boy only gets louder, screaming that John's family is trash and mocking John's sister as nothing but a servant while sneering about his sick brother. He says John is nobody and that someone like him should not dare talk back. That is the moment John stops holding back and moves before anyone can react. The jealous boy tries to attack, but he never gets the chance. John is much faster. A deep cut appears across the young man's chest, and blood sprays. Most people in the room do not even see what happened. It was too fast, and even John's friends stare in shock. The vice commander turns and asks if John just attacked Huang Wei, the jealous boy. Someone in the hall nervously reminds everyone that Huang Wei's family belongs to one of the top 10 guilds in the country, yet even so, John has just cut him down. Huang Wei, bleeding and trembling, tries to threaten him, asking if John understands what he has done and warning him about the consequences. John answers coldly, saying that garbage like this, who threatens his family, deserves worse, and that he does not care who Huang Wei is. Huang Wei realizes something in that moment, that this is not a peaceful world but one that already resembles a battlefield, where family is all most people have left, and if someone threatens that, there is no point in trying to negotiate. John walks toward him, step by step. No one stops him. John says he will never hesitate to defend the people who matter to him, declaring that anyone who endangers his sister or brother should be ready to die and be forgotten. Huang Wei breaks down, screaming and crying like a child. In the system, a notification appears showing that Huang Wei's character is dead, and John receives 6 experience points for it, which is very little. John frowns, thinking to himself that for someone from such an important and wealthy family, that is a disappointing amount of experience, though he knows there will still be consequences, since death in Phantom Star is not permanent in the real world and Huang Wei will wake up back on Earth with his family's influence intact. Even so, the military commander is watching closely and thinks that John is reckless but also powerful, decisive, and loyal, which pleases him. The commander silences the room, stating that John acted in self-defense and that the matter ends here for now, adding that he does not want anyone discussing it further. He then turns to John, Sui, and Yuan, telling them to follow him to receive their rewards. As they walk, Yuan and Sui congratulate John, saying he handled himself with total confidence. Later, under the glow of bright lights, they gather around Vice Commander Lu Jun. He apologizes for keeping them waiting and says that the military has prepared their items. He reaches out toward a reinforced case, which opens on its own and spills golden light across the room. Sui receives her reward first, the Jade of Vitality, which is the dream of every healer. It increases mentality and physique by 15 points each, and also boosts healing power and potion-making ability. Yuan receives his reward next, in a class armor called Blackstone Rhino Armor. It increases his defense and strength by 16 points, and reduces incoming damage by 16%. Now it is John's turn. John opens his case, and his eyes light up. Inside is a set of finely crafted throwing daggers, and the system reports that the item requires an evaluation card before its full details can be read. Vice Commander Lu Jun is surprised, since items that require evaluation cards are very rare and usually indicate gear of truly superior rank. Luckily, Lu Jun has one evaluation card on hand, and he gives it to John. The card is absorbed into the weapon. The data becomes visible, revealing that the weapon grants 9 points to strength, piercing, and agility, and has a special effect that increases John's critical strike chance each time he survives a dangerous encounter, stacking up to a maximum of 90%. Lu Jun quietly thinks that the weapon might not be a good match for a rookie, believing that beginners do not deal enough damage for a high critical chance to matter much yet. One of his fellow officers argues that this is unfair to John and asks if they should let him choose something else. John refuses. He says he wants to keep the daggers, believing they are the best possible weapon he could have received. John knows something the officers do not. His class talent allows a critical hit to deal 200 times normal damage. The downside is that his chance of landing a critical hit is much lower than that of normal players and rarely triggers, but these daggers change that. The daggers increase his critical hit rate by 10% each time that special effect stacks, up to a maximum of 90%. That means this weapon is almost perfectly made for him, turning his risky, rare super critical into something he can trigger often, so he decides he is absolutely keeping it. Vice Commander Lu Jun says that since they have officially cleared the tutorial, they can now return to Earth. He also steps in close to John and warns him that someone may be coming after him soon, telling him to be careful on his way home. After that, the session ends, and John and his friends return to the real world. John is excited, not expecting to have passed the beginner test so smoothly, and eager to tell his brother and sister as he heads home. As he walks up to his neighborhood, something feels off. There are several luxury cars parked in front of his house. He wonders if some neighbor suddenly got rich, takes out his phone, thinks about taking a picture, then shrugs it off and goes inside. He calls out that he is home and starts to say that he passed his evaluation. Then he freezes. There are men in his living room he does not recognize. One man is sitting comfortably on his couch like he owns the place, while the strangers say they already heard that the kid did very well in his rookie evaluation. John realizes who the leader is, Huang De, the older brother of the boy John cut down in Phantom Star. John demands to know why Huang De is in his house. Before he can finish, something hard hits the back of his head. The door behind him slams shut. Two men grab him and hold his arms in place. Huang De talks calmly, saying his younger brother is now in a bad mental state and that it is John's fault. He insists that their family is the one being treated unfairly, not John, and claims he could keep his brother offline for a month if he wanted, but he could keep John offline forever. He raises a metal baton and prepares to smash it into John's skull. John is pinned and cannot block. Then the front door blasts inward with huge force. The broken door slams into the two men holding John and knocks them to the floor. Even Huang De is knocked off balance and falls, then trying to get up, demands to know who just interrupted him. A man steps in, saying he told John to be careful coming home. He sounds annoyed and asks why John did not take that warning seriously. A woman enters along with an older man and shows official documents, ordering everyone not to move and declaring that this is now a military matter. The older man is Wei, the supreme commander of the city's military force. The intruders do not understand what is happening. They only came to threaten Kai, but now they have accidentally angered someone they never should have touched. Huang De is shocked and demands to know who this kid really is and what kind of background he has. John slowly gets back up after being held down. He himself can hardly believe that the supreme commander of the city's military force has personally come to his house. Because of what they did, the thugs are detained and taken to the police station. John thanks Commander Wei for saving him, but he also asks why the commander is here. Wei tells him not to be nervous, saying that John and his teammates were exceptional during the Phantom Star test. While John was offline, the military already contacted his friends and invited them to join. Wei explains that he is here to extend the same invitation to John, then sighs and exhales smoke from his cigarette. Wei then says that John has started something new, that a new profession has appeared through him, and asks if John understands what that means. He explains that there are already many existing professions on Phantom Star, and that every 20 levels an explorer can change profession, altering their attribute growth, sometimes making fighters stronger, and sometimes weaker. Most professions are useless to the military, but it is always searching for those with real combat value. He believes John's profession has enormous potential. The woman with Wei steps toward John. She asks if he would be interested in joining the military and building a future with them. She says they are not here to force him and that they already know his family situation since they looked into it. She also says that if he joins, the military will pay for his brother's treatment and guarantee his family's safety. The offer is very good, and John goes quiet, thinking seriously. They tell him to consider it, saying that if he agrees, he can give his answer tomorrow. He only has to speak to the woman. As they turn to leave, John stops them and apologizes. Then he says he refuses. Both Wei and the woman seem surprised. John explains his refusal. He says he knows that joining the military is, in theory, a good choice for someone with a combat profession, but he does not trust it. He asks them to remember when the drunkard profession first appeared. Back then, the military was very interested and gave support. But once they realized the drunkard profession was useless in real combat, they abandoned that person, leaving the explorer in a miserable state. John admits he cannot be careless like that. He says he will move his family out of this neighborhood to get away from the Huang family's reach, and that his family has always survived by protecting itself, not by depending on someone else's protection. The woman replies that this is not just about him, saying humanity needs strong people, and that his profession might help everyone. John says he is not trying to be noble, only that he cares about keeping his own family safe. The woman keeps trying to persuade him, but Commander Wei interrupts her, saying he understands John's point. He says that a person cannot change their entire life in just a few days, and points out that John's brother does not have much time left. On top of that, Wei says, constant fighting is not a very interesting future in a world like this. Wei then makes John an offer, telling him that the military will protect him for 1 month, during which he must make enough money to pay for his brother's surgery. If he can do that on his own, he can stay free, but if he fails to make the money in time, the military will pay for the surgery, and then John will have to enlist. John stands there in silence, thinking. After a moment, he lets out a small smile and agrees to the bet. He says that if he loses, he will keep his word. With that settled, there is no time to waste. He needs to return to Phantom Star and start earning money. Before leaving, he records a message for his brother, saying that he is returning to Phantom Star and that they cannot keep living in the same neighborhood anymore. They have to move for their own safety. He promises to come back with enough money. He then logs back into Phantom Star. Now that he has new clothes and an official registration, he can finally hunt monsters for real profit. But first, he has to register with a guild. Beginners are required to join teams because hunting alone is dangerous. Guilds exist to help new explorers survive. He wonders which guild will take him. At the check-in counter, a woman greets him and asks if he is John. Then she tells him something bad. Right now, he cannot join any guild. Because he offended the Huang family, he has been blacklisted. No guild will accept him. That means he will have to act alone. Still in the safe zone, he looks around and sees many other beginners without a guild. He wonders if his journey is already over before it even starts. Then someone approaches him. A girl asks if he is unsure where to hunt monsters, saying she reads fortunes for people and can tell him the best place to hunt for 100 coins. She introduces herself as Huan, level 29. John looks at her and does not believe her. He starts to walk away and apologizes, saying he is basically an atheist, but she keeps pushing and offers him a free reading. She says it will not cost him anything and teases that it is not too late for him to become superstitious. Trying not to overthink it, John agrees. The girl treats it like a test. A strange board in front of her begins to glow with golden light. She chants silently and focuses. After reading him, she tells him his situation is dangerous right now, but there is a way out if he moves first. She tells him to go to the Valley of Kings. The fortune teller is right, John is being watched. In the safe zone, no one is allowed to openly attack him, but the moment he leaves, hunters could be waiting. Normally, rookies begin their hunting in a place called the Ash Plains, but she says there is probably already an assassin waiting for him there. Another possible area is Victory Peak, meant for players above level 15. If he goes there now, he might die instantly, but the Valley of Kings is intended for players above level 10. It is still dangerous, but she believes that this area is his best chance. She says there should be no trap set for him there, and adds that if he has to do things alone, then so be it. John thanks her for the advice and leaves for the Valley of Kings. She watches him go and frowns, having assumed he would go with a team. She thought her reading meant he should head there with a group. Going alone might be suicide, and she hopes he at least comes back alive and doesn't blame her later. John arrives at the Valley of Kings. He wonders if the monsters here are as strong as the rumors say. A violent roar shakes the leaves, and he turns to see movement in the trees. A massive jaw filled with sharp teeth snaps down. A huge black gorilla is smashing through a group of players like they are nothing. The creature is a level 11 monster. The players fighting it are level 10 explorers. They are trying hard to hold their ground and believe that if they keep pushing, they can bring it down. The fight is fierce. John watches from hiding as both sides, the humans and the monster, prove to be strong. He quietly asks himself if he could handle something like that alone. As he is thinking, he catches a strange scent, the smell of beasts. He looks around and realizes several gorillas have already found him. He jumps back just in time as his wrist device flashes a warning about immediate danger. The weakest of the gorillas near him is level 12. Meanwhile, the level 10 explorers in the distance are still struggling against a single level 11 gorilla. They fight with effort, but eventually manage to defeat it without losing anyone. One member of their team is excited and says they are going to brag about this. Their captain agrees. Then they all hear something else. They turn and see what is happening in John's direction, finally noticing that several level 12 gorillas are chasing one lone explorer. John realizes he must have stepped into their territory and triggered them. The other team stares and wonders if they should help him. But their captain says that if they try to interfere, they will all die here. He tells his team to run and get out fast. As they watch from a distance, something unbelievable happens. One of the level 12 gorillas falls. John's new daggers were the perfect weapon. After only 5 attacks, one of them lands a huge critical hit, and the beast collapses. The other team stares in disbelief. The boy they just watched outrun a pack of monsters has killed a gorilla even stronger than the one they barely managed to defeat together. John keeps moving, running from the remaining gorillas but without panic. In fact, he is confident. He believes he can kill them too. He targets the next gorilla and strikes again. Another body drops, leaving only one gorilla remaining. John got a critical hit in just a single throw this time, and the monster falls. The onlookers are speechless. This kind of result would be difficult even for a larger team than theirs, yet the boy did it alone. John pauses, breathing hard, and admits to himself that it was still more difficult than he expected. He looks down. He now has 3 corpse cards from the gorillas, proof of the kills that can be traded for money, and feels more certain he can do this job on his own. He continues walking deeper into the valley. Once he is gone, the other team starts arguing. One of them says they should have introduced themselves and tried to recruit him. Another claims he was about to, but someone else stopped him. But the truth is, none of them actually moved a step to help John. In another part of the hunting grounds, something else is happening at the same time. A group of people gathers in the wide plains, the air tense. It is the Huang family's Falcon Squad. Every member of this squad is level 20. That means they are far above normal beginners, and they are all waiting for John to appear. They surround a woman and pressure her to tell them where she last saw him. The Falcon Squad says they are here to avenge the honor of the Huang family, which John insulted, calling him trash and ordering the woman to tell them where to find him. The woman says that the boy went to the Valley of Kings and can probably be found there. They throw her aside and say that if she is lying, they will be back for her. This Falcon Squad is known as the strongest group in the Huang family for players under level 20. John is in real danger if they catch up to him. But as they leave, the girl smiles to herself. She thinks that rude people do not deserve the truth, so she gave them what they wanted to hear, but secretly cast their fortune, believing they are actually walking toward their own deaths by chasing John. After a full day of hunting, John reaches level 6. Rumor says gorilla bodies are worth a lot because they are extremely hard to collect. If he keeps hunting like this, paying for his brother's treatment will not be a problem. While he is thinking about this, another group approaches him. They ask if he wants to join them for a hunt. There are a lot of them in total. They have 3 full teams. They say if he joins them, he can earn a share of the loot that the gorillas drop. John answers honestly, saying he does not have a hunting team and is working alone. The young man leading the others insists, saying they only need one more person. He explains that the Valley of Kings is full of cliffs and peaks, and at the top of one of those peaks, a group of people is already gathered. He points down and shows John what they are looking at. Below them is an elite treasure chest. He says they have been watching that chest for a while. It is guarded by elite gorillas, which are much stronger than normal ones. He says they need John to act as bait. John will distract one of the elite gorillas and pull it away while the 3 teams handle the others and take the treasure. And afterward John will get a share of the reward. They also mention that elite treasure chests tend to give out rare items, sometimes even better than what you get from normal monsters. John thinks about it and realizes what this plan really is. They do not expect him to come back alive. But at this point, he is already involved. He decides to go through with it. They begin the operation. Everyone moves into position according to the plan. The elite gorillas notice the intruders. The leader of the hunters signals that the job has started. John is the one who must lure one of the elite gorillas. He leaps into action. He strikes the first gorilla and grabs its attention, pulling it away from the group and leading it far from the others. The leader of the hunting teams is pleased. John does exactly what they wanted, luring an elite gorilla away by himself and becoming the bait. The leader expects John to die, which means one less person to share the treasure with. The rest of the teams fight to the death over the loot, while the elite gorilla's attacks are brutal. John knows he is taking a huge risk by running alone like this, as an elite gorilla is much stronger than a normal one. A normal explorer would already be dead, but John is not a normal explorer. He throws his daggers at the beast. Every throw hits clean. The elite gorilla staggers and finally crashes to the ground, dead. A level 15 elite gorilla is still no match for John's critical damage. Now the situation turns. It is John's turn to use the other explorers. Outside, the 3 teams are locked in battle with the other elite gorillas, struggling to hold them back. Even with their full numbers, they are barely managing to survive. Their leader keeps shouting for them to stick to the plan, trying desperately to keep things under control. John, meanwhile, moves quietly. He only needs to walk a short distance before he finds what he came for. There it is, the elite treasure chest, and getting this far was easier than expected. All it took was killing the first elite gorilla guarding the entrance, but as he reaches for the chest, a roar explodes from inside the cave. Warm saliva drips onto his shoulder from above. Another gorilla was already in the cave, guarding the treasure. It drops down in fury and nearly crushes him. This one is different. It's a level 20 elite gorilla that the other teams had no idea existed, and unlike the others, this one is actually dangerous to him. The gorilla moves to block the exit entirely with its body. There's no way out now. It's kill or die. John attacks first, throwing his daggers, but this time they do nothing. They do not pierce the monster's skin. Even hitting its eyes is useless. The system shows why. The gorilla's defense is 23 points. John's normal attacks can't break that number, and even though his daggers ignore 9 points of defense, it's still not enough. While he is thinking, the gorilla charges. John is struck hard and smashed against the cave wall. His body slams into the rock, pain exploding through him as he struggles to sit up and understand what just happened. The difference between them is too big. He is outmatched, but even so, he refuses to die here. If he dies now, he won't be able to return to Phantom Star for an entire month, which means he won't be able to earn money. And if he can't earn money within 1 month, he'll break his deal with Commander Wei and be forced to depend entirely on the military, losing his freedom, something he cannot allow. His vision starts to blur. His body weakens, and he can feel himself slipping. Then in his mind, a memory rises. He hears a voice telling him to stay awake, and then he sees his brother. In the memory, his older brother is running while holding him. The world around them is broken. They are in a ruined city, his brother doing everything he can to carry him, keep him awake, and get him to safety. A memory from 10 years ago when their home became a war zone. John thinks of that moment, remembering how his brother kept going even as everything collapsed around them. He remembers how his brother and sister saved him, and he refuses to give up. He pulls one of his daggers back into his hand. Energy spreads through his body as he forces himself to move. He will not die on the floor of this cave. Outside the memory, inside the cave, the level 20 elite gorilla lanes in, and then it swallows him. The monster lifts its head with satisfaction, believing the fight is over. But something else is happening inside. A moment later, the gorilla's face twists and it lets out a horrible sound. Its head bursts apart into fragments and blood. Its body drops like a stone, and the giant creature lies dead. John is injured, exhausted, and covered in blood, but alive. He figured out that the gorilla's outer skin was too tough, but its mouth was softer. It was just like with the Wolf King. The outside had too much defense, but the inside did not, so he killed it from within. Now the elite chest is his. He's weak, but the treasure belongs to him. Almost an hour later, the other teams outside finally manage to kill the remaining elite gorillas. They cheer and celebrate, saying that the boy who lured one away is probably dead by now, which means one fewer person to share the loot with. They then enter the cave to take the treasure, but when they get inside, they freeze. The cave is empty, and the elite chest is gone. The captain starts shouting in anger, saying the chest was supposed to be there. Someone else says that he saw the boy run inside the cave while they were still fighting, but he thought he imagined it. He did not say anything because it did not seem possible that the boy survived. Now the group turns on their leader. They complain that they have been out here for days, that their pay is late, and now the treasure is gone because they were tricked. Meanwhile, in another part of the valley, John is resting. He figures those people are probably cursing him right now, and shrugs. He opens his system screen and looks at the treasure chest he took, which he still hasn't opened. Then he opens the chest and can barely breathe. It is full of valuable items, rare minerals, and equipment. The money he can make from this is far more than what he would get from just selling monster corpses. But something else in the chest stands out even more. There is another piece of gear inside, a pair of gloves. He slips them on. Each glove has a small fire emblem. He does not know yet whether they are meant for attack or defense. But the moment he wears them, he feels lighter and stronger. His body feels faster. He thinks his strength and agility have both improved and decides to test them. He throws his daggers, and as they fly, flames appear around them in midair. This must be the effect of the gloves. On Phantom Star, there are many kinds of flames, some extremely deadly, others almost worthless. Normal flames are weak. Ordinary fire is usually only good for lighting a campfire or cooking, and isn't considered a real weapon. So John thinks that maybe these gloves are only for utility. Before he can finish that thought, the forest shakes. A heavy force slams into the ground nearby, as a giant arm crashes into the dirt. He turns and sees them, 4 elite elemental gorillas. He wonders if one of them was hit by one of his test throws, or if they simply sensed him. Either way, all 4 are now staring directly at him. Even one of these enemies is a huge problem, but facing 4 at once could be impossible. He uses the same trick as before, aiming for the mouth, and throws a dagger at close range toward the open jaw. But this time the gorilla is ready. It clamps its mouth shut before impact, and the dagger bounces off. The system reads the result, 0 damage. John realizes this is bad. They've already learned his pattern and know to guard their weak point. He runs. In his current condition, even if he manages to target the inside of one of their mouths, there's no way he can handle all 4 at once. He might die here. Then he notices something strange. One of the gorillas suddenly begins losing health as its body catches fire. He doesn't see what started the fire, but the flames spread across its body. Then another gorilla's health drops, and then another's. The health drain keeps rising. One of them bursts fully into flame, and its health bar drops by 2,000 points in a single moment. The fire spreads uncontrollably, and the elemental gorillas panic. The flames keep spreading, and though the gorillas try to run, they are already burning. John stares, struggling to understand what he's seeing. He doesn't even know how the fire is jumping from one target to the next. A tiny spark lands on one gorilla's chest fur. The gorilla slaps at the flames, but it's already too late. Its arm catches fire, then its shoulders, and soon its entire upper body. Now all 3 remaining gorillas are burning hard. John watches as the last of them begins to fall, still confused. He doesn't understand how the fire grew so strong so fast. It started as normal fire, yet now it looks like something else entirely. Then the flames fade, leaving all 4 massive bodies on the ground, completely dead. Something becomes clear. He saw the damage climb. At first, the fire was doing about 10 points, but within seconds it rose to 2,000, a 200-fold increase. He realizes the truth. The gloves create fire, but more than that, His special talent lets the damage multiply by 200 times and spread from one monster to another. The fire looks like normal flame, but it is not normal if you cannot resist it. If they cannot endure the heat, it becomes fatal in seconds. With these gloves, he can inflict 2,000 points of damage per second across groups of enemies, meaning it no longer matters if he can't pierce a monster's outer defense. He can simply burn them down. For the gorillas, this is a disaster, the worst night in their history, as fire filled the valley and nothing could stop it. No one had ever burned elite gorillas like that. They could only run and scream as the fire consumed them like dry brush. After that, John walks openly through the valley without fear. Within a range of 10 miles around him, there is nothing left for any other explorer to collect. By dawn of the second day, ashes cover the entire area. It was incredibly profitable, as he had hunted dozens of gorillas. His level rises to level 8. Thanks to the gloves, nothing below level 20 can stand up to his area damage now. On top of that, he has collected 10 elite chests and a pile of monster corpses. He's going to make a lot of money. He looks up at the sky and feels a little lonely. He misses being with his friends. He does not know exactly how they are doing right now, but he guesses that since they joined the army, they are probably all right. Back in the Valley of Kings, his former companions are frustrated. They find almost no gorillas left, as someone has wiped them out. One of them says that without John, everything is much harder. He used to help them find monsters and take them down. A senior explorer addresses the rookies and tells them not to complain. Lee, a level 38 fighter, says the area is too dangerous for beginners, which is why they aren't finding monsters anymore, and adds that even with John, this place would still be risky. All they can do now is keep searching and hope they find at least one remaining gorilla. Even so, they admit it out loud. They miss John. 3 days pass, and one of the explorers complains that all he can find now are normal gorillas, which are too easy for them. He says Huang Wei told them to focus on finding John instead of hunting properly, calling it a waste of their time and skills, but another explorer tells him to accept it. Orders are orders. The others turn and listen to what he says next. He explains that a few days ago, they saw something unbelievable in the Valley of Kings. A single person took down 3 gorillas without difficulty. The arrogant explorer scoffs, saying that might be impressive for low-level beginners, but not for real fighters. He clearly isn't taking it seriously. The group shows him an image of John. They ask if the arrogant one has seen that boy anywhere in the valley, and the others confirm that yes, he's the same person they saw, the one who killed 3 gorillas alone. They say he was just a level 5 rookie at the time. The arrogant one says that's obviously a lie and vows that when they find him they'll crush him. But then someone spots John, seeing him leaving the Valley of Kings. The arrogant one smiles. John is nearby at last. He rallies his squad, ready to finish their mission. Elsewhere, John's old supporters shake their heads, feeling sorry for the newcomers who are about to pick a fight with him, completely unaware of what they're walking into. At the exit of the valley, a crowd has gathered. People are annoyed there are almost no gorillas left to hunt. Some say a huge fire burned them all, while others insist that's impossible and that no single person could have done it. By this point, John is level 10. After defeating all those gorillas, he has collected 19 elite chests. Then he hears someone shout his name from behind and tell him to stop. He turns. It is the Huang family's Falcon squad. Everyone nearby starts whispering. They all know this squad belongs to the Huang family and wonder what John did to make them hunt him like this. John looks at them and asks if the Huang family really sent them. The arrogant leader of the squad draws his weapon, saying that John must have forgotten who he insulted during the beginner tutorial, and that now the whole squad is here for one reason, to kill him. John braces himself. He tells them that he acted in self-defense before, and asks if they seriously want to keep doing this. They answer that they don't care about self-defense, they care about the bounty. So John decides not to show mercy. His daggers fly. Some of the Falcon squad members dodge the first wave. Others are hit, and at first they laugh, saying the flames licking at their skin are weak and mocking the idea that a little fire could hurt them. Spectators nearby shake their heads, unable to believe someone is using what looks like ordinary fire in a serious fight, and whisper that it won't matter, that it's only a matter of time before John is overwhelmed. John looks at the Falcon squad and asks what they think will happen if the fire starts doing more damage. It does not take long for the first member of the Falcon squad to start losing health. His health drops by 2,000 points every second as flames engulf his entire body until he can barely be seen. His teammates panic, trying to put the fire out, but nothing works. They can't understand how such a normal-looking flame is draining life so fast. The other two, who were only lightly touched by the flames at first, now begin to burn as well. Soon they also turn into human bonfires. The rest of the squad realizes too late that something is very wrong. Before they can react, more of them are swallowed by the spreading flames. The fire devours them, their bodies burning away as they struggle helplessly to stop it. The system confirms what just happened, announcing that John has completely wiped out the Falcon squad and stolen their experience points. Everyone who saw the fight is stunned. A crowd that had expected John to be killed now stares at the bodies of an elite level 20 squad lying on the ground, taken apart by one person. The onlookers whisper, wondering who this dangerous kid is. One of them tries to scan John's information with a wrist device, but cannot read all of his details. They guess that he must be some kind of powerful fire type class, and that he is using special gear that blocks stat reading. John opens his status window and sees that he's already leveled up 2 more times from that short fight. He then asks the system why other players are unable to read his attributes. The system tells him that his skill grants many bonus attributes, making it impossible for players around his level to view his full data. He thinks this is actually a good thing. It means people will not immediately target him out of fear or greed. After that, John goes into town and walks into a shop to sell what he has collected. He tells the saleswoman that he has some items to sell and wants a price. The woman barely looks up at first, used to rookies coming in to sell small junk, and based on how plain and rough he looks, she assumes he has nothing valuable. Then he opens his inventory, and her eyes go wide. He shows her cards from normal gorillas, elite gorillas, and more. That alone would be a rich haul, but that's not all. He also shows her 19 elite chests he collected from the Valley of Kings. John asks how much all of it is worth. For a moment, the saleswoman just stares. She's not used to someone showing up with this much top-level material at once. Usually, players bring her one body card or a small item, but this guy looks like a wholesaler. She shakes her head to clear it. Now fully awake and excited, she says that she will calculate the value herself, and that she is the best person in the shop for this kind of job. She begins calculating the price, and the total is high. She explains it out loud. The monster body cards are worth 10,000 coins, and the elite treasure chests are worth 170,000 coins, for a total of 180,000 coins. Each coin in Phantom Star is equal to 10 units of real-world money, meaning his total comes to 1,800,000 in real-world currency. That is enough to take care of his brother's health. John realizes something important in that moment. He's done it. He's already earned enough to pay for the surgery, winning his bet with the commander and freeing himself from having to enlist in the military. Later, while he is walking in town, the fortune teller calls out to him. She reminds him that she gave him the fortune reading for free earlier, grinning and out of breath, as she says she was right to send him to the Valley of Kings. She says it must have gone very well, and he calmly confirms that yes, it did. Then she asks him for a favor. The girl, Hyun, says her wish is to be part of his team. She wants to fight alongside him in the future. John turns away and starts to walk off, telling her goodbye in a cold, final way, leaving her angry and annoyed at how blunt he is. Hyun changes the subject and teases him, saying the military is always the one deciding whether a profession is useful or not, then adds that if he likes getting things for free so much, maybe he wants her equipment, mentioning it might be her last time in the game. John pauses and asks if she is really that poor, and if she has already given up on making money here. She explains her story. She says that when the military said fortune teller was a good profession, she followed that path. Before that, she had been in a different class, but she says she changed her profession to fortune teller because she believed it would be valuable. But later, the military stopped supporting it, and after that, no one wanted fortune tellers on a team anymore. Now she can't join any group and spends her time alone in the game, waiting, hopping, and doing nothing but reading fortunes. She says that if she goes back to Earth for good, nothing will really improve. In fact, it might get worse. She will have to do hard physical labor and earn almost nothing. John says that's awful, thinking of his brother's condition and how his health began to fail from non-stop overwork, adding that a normal girl wouldn't be able to endure that kind of punishment. Hyun admits that she would not, but she also says she can't give up because she has younger siblings depending on her. She can't just disappear and leave them with nothing. John is quiet for a moment, thinking of his own older brother. People have different roles, but the pressure is the same. His brother also carried the whole family alone. His brother saw Phantom Star as hope, but gave it up to keep John and his sister alive. Hyun sighs and says she really is quitting this time, that she won't return to Phantom Star again, and says goodbye. John tells her to wait. He says he's leaving for now but will be back, and tells her that if they meet again, they'll form a team for real. Hyun actually trembles when she hears that, unable to believe him, and asks if he's serious. John says he isn't lying, adding that if he is, may he never make money again. She laughs a little at that, because she knows how much he cares about money. Before he can leave, she jumps forward and hugs him tight, thanking him for the chance. He tries to push her off, and nearby players start staring at them. John goes home and tells his family the news. He tells his sister she no longer needs to work and can go back to school. His sister is stunned and asks if the money is real, and John tells her he earned it in the game, in Phantom Star. He turns to his brother and says the surgery can be done the next day, but his older brother looks worried and says it must have been very hard out there. John tells him it's nothing compared to what his brother has already done. He raised 2 orphans and took care of both him and their sister. John says his brother did his part, and now it is John's turn to take care of the family. They celebrate together, talking about a new start. As John drinks quietly, his phone buzzes. It is Commander Wei. Wei tells him he lost the bet and that John has his freedom, adding that he'll send someone to pick John up later to show him something important. He reminds John to come outside the safe zone when called. After some time, John is brought to a ruined place. He looks around at the broken, burned, empty city and realizes it's the place where he grew up as a child, now destroyed and hollow. He meets the commander in person. John asks why he was brought here. Before Wei can answer, the ground shakes. A huge impact echoes through the buildings as explosions rumble in the distance and the air tears with force. John turns and sees it. Not far away, a massive creature the size of a small building is being fought by several people. A small team of 3 fighters is battling the giant beast without fear. John asks if these people are fighting what is known as a god beast. Commander Wei explains that in Phantom Star, every 20 levels mark a new tier for explorers, with 6 main tiers in total, and that up to level 80, a player's power can only be used inside the game. The fighters continue their assault on the creature, but then Wei explains that from levels 81 to 120, something changes, an awakening occurs, and those players are called extraordinaries. They can use their Phantom Star abilities in the real world, not just inside the game. These are the people who stand between humanity and extinction. John looks at the 3 fighters again. Their eyes show no fear, their movements sharp and calm as the battle against the god beast continues. Wei says that this kind of fight is the only real way to deal with a god beast. John watches the fight and feels how strong those players are. Commander Wei tells him this isn't even a special case, that this is just an ordinary god beast. He explains that to get rid of it, they already lost 2 transcendents. This shocks John, who had spent most of his time in safe zones where people were protected, and only now sees how bad things really are outside them. Wei says he will not force John to join the army. Lightning cracks overhead as thunder rolls over the ruins. Wei goes on, saying that he already spoke to the Huang family and told them to leave John alone, which surprises John that the commander went that far for him. Wei says that he trusts his instinct. John falls quiet. Wei says his instincts tell him that John will become a strong person and that he understands John's desire to protect his sister and brother, but adds that if John joins the army right now, it would mean going to war and leaving his family behind. Wei also says that every person has a share of responsibility. Someone has to hold the line, or there will be nothing left, and as a citizen of Shino, it is his duty to fight for his country and for people like John, fully accepting that he might die in that duty soon. Wei says he will not force John to sign up, but he also says that one day, if the city cries for help, and if John is able to answer, he hopes John will fight for Shino. After resting a few days in the real world, John logs back into Phantom Star. He thinks about what the commander said. He did not expect Wei to place such high expectations on him, but now it was time to focus on his own survival. He needed tougher enemies. Gorillas were no longer enough. His wrist device shows the profile of a new kind of monster, a ghostly Banshee. The Banshee can kill in a single strike and terrifies its targets. It cannot be damaged from farther than 10 meters and is extremely dangerous to fight up close, which makes it even worse than the gorillas. John thinks it over. He decides that this is not the kind of monster he can face alone and that he needs a team, so he goes looking for the fortune teller. She is asleep in the street, next to a small sign that says she is waiting for the captain and does not want to be disturbed. John wakes her up and asks if she has really been waiting there since the last time he logged in. She is happy and says she knew he would come back, and John tells her that he always keeps his promises. She smiles and says she has already found someone who could be useful to them, and that if this person helps them kill monsters, their team will be strong. John adds that he hopes the person is not a drunkard. The new person introduces himself as Ryuen, and he is exactly what John did not want, someone from the drunkard class. The moment John hears that, he tries to run away at full speed. The fortune teller sighs, realizing that their captain is still very practical. She tries to defend Ryuen, saying that he is a hard worker and loyal. The boy looks embarrassed and doesn't know where to look, saying he can cook and give massages, and that as long as he can be part of the team, he won't even ask for a share of the payment. That last part gets John's attention. John immediately reacts. He grabs Ryuen's hand, raises it like he is announcing a champion, and tells him that he knew Ryuen had talent. He says he is happy to work with him and declares that, as captain, he will now take Ryuen to the hunting grounds where banshees appear. Ryuen quietly asks the fortune teller if John is always this quick to change his mind, and she answers that yes, he always is. They head out together. They return to the Valley of Kings, where elite banshee monsters appear. A level 20 banshee steps forward, hunting players. Some explorers nearby are watching her from a distance. John studies the banshee and says she is strong, adding that once she is revealed, everyone nearby will try to kill her at once, so they have to be careful. He warns that she can only be attacked at close range, meaning the only way to win is to get in close without being noticed. He tells his team to stay low and quiet and wait for a chance, then he hears something. He turns and tells Hyuen to stop talking, but Hyuen frowns and says she wasn't talking at all. He tells them both again to be silent, but Hyuen repeats that she hasn't said a word. John turns around and finally realizes where the sound is coming from. It is Ryuen. He is asleep and snoring loudly, happily shouting in his sleep that he is drinking in honor of the captain. The banshee instantly notices them. She floats toward their hiding place. Once she is close enough, she unleashes her terrifying scream. John panics and demands to know what Hyuen did, because right now this is going wrong, and the drunkard is not helping. The banshee's scream hits all of them, as they are within range, and the scream inflicts fear. John is overwhelmed, Hyuen is also affected, and even Ryuen, who is still asleep, is affected. All three of them gain the fear status, and are frozen in place, unable to think of any way to respond, move, or fight. The banshee keeps gliding closer and closer. Then something ridiculous happens. Still asleep, Ryuen mumbles that he does not know how such a beautiful woman appeared in front of him, and then he lunges at her. He slams into the banshee with so much force that it looks like a deliberate tackling move. He wraps his arms around her and tells her, in his drowsy mumbling, that fate brought them together and he will take care of her. He even rubs her face while half asleep and says her skin is smooth and glowing. The fear status on John and Hyuen suddenly breaks, and John realizes that Ryuen's weird behavior interrupted the banshee's first control ability, which is now on cooldown, preventing her from using her scream again right away. John understands immediately that this is their opening. He cannot waste the opportunity and has to end the banshee now. Something unexpected happens. Ryuen is holding the banshee in place so she cannot dodge, still half asleep and acting as if she were his future wife. He leans in and announces that from now on they will be husband and wife, and that he is about to kiss her. Before the situation can get any worse for the monster, she explodes. A shock wave rips through the air as smoke rises from the center of the blast. Ryuen snaps out of his dream and wakes up, confused, looking around and asking where his beautiful and loving wife went. John is satisfied, and the fortune teller is thrilled, saying that the captain managed to kill an elite monster in only a few seconds. Not everyone is happy, though. Ryuen falls to his knees, crying that his true love was just blown up in front of him, saying that she was the woman of his life and that he will never be able to love again. John quietly asks the fortune teller if Ryuen is always like this, and she explains that he is from the drunkard class. When he drinks, he becomes like this, and in that state, his taste in women is unbelievably bad. She goes to retrieve the monster's card. Meanwhile, John thinks about what he just saw. The banshee's scream is supposed to terrify everyone who hears it and lock them down with fear, but the drunkard was within her range and not only resisted the effect, he actually managed to grab her. John realizes that this is not normal, since from what he knows, the weakness of the drunkard class is loss of control while intoxicated. A drunkard is unpredictable and unstable, but that same unstable state seems to make them naturally resistant to banshee fear. If that's true, then Ryuan is the perfect counter to this kind of monster. As John thinks this through, the fortune teller returns with the spoils, the chest from the elite Banshee. John's expression changes to a mischievous smile, and the fortune teller notices. She wonders what exactly he is planning. The group keeps hunting through the forest. They move to another area where the Banshees live, and another Banshee appears, letting out a terrifying scream. But this time, John is ready for it. He now knows exactly how to fight this type of enemy. He looks at Ryuan and, like a trainer sending a pet into battle, he releases his drunkard straight at the Banshee. The Banshee screams again and tries to frighten him, but it does not work. To Ryuan, she isn't a terrifying ghost, but a beautiful woman thirsting for his strong and lovely body. Still dreaming, he tells her that he wants her too, and cannot wait for them to be married. While she is locked in place with him and cannot use her special move again, John takes the shot. His daggers cut through the air and strike. The Banshee explodes in front of Ryuan. The system confirms that John has taken down another Banshee. Still lost in his fantasy, Ryuan looks shocked, clutching his head and shouting in despair, demanding to know where his bride has disappeared to and accusing his teammates of destroying his woman again. Then he collapses face first onto the ground. John and the fortune teller don't waste time. Before Ryuan sobers up, they hurry to find the next Banshee. Hours pass, and after about 3 hours of hunting in that area, Ryuan has already lost 11 wives. Time keeps moving, and by the end of the session, he has mourned 23. Every Banshee they found, he tried to claim as his one true love, and every Banshee exploded. The team, however, gains a huge amount from this. Thanks to Ryuan distracting all the Banshees, they collect many drops and many chests. By the end, they have gathered 35 treasure chests. With all the fighting and looting, John gains a lot of experience, leveling up twice and reaching level 14. The only real cost is emotional. Ryuan says his teammates are two heartless beasts who keep blowing up his future brides. That is not all they get. The group also finds 2 skill cards. They examine the first card, which grants a skill that can create heavy rain. If the user has strong mental power and favorable terrain, the rain can become so intense that it even forms lakes. Since Hyuan, the fortune teller, is already level 29 and has high mental strength, John gives that card to her. She is overjoyed. Before now, her only profession skill was fortune telling, and this is her second real ability. For the first time, she feels like she isn't completely useless. She bows deeply to him and declares that from now on she will treat him like an older brother forever. John says she deserves it and lightly taps her on the head to stop her from being dramatic. The second skill card is unusual. It can only be used by someone with a secret profession, and when activated, it grants a one-time skill that disappears after that single use. John decides to test it immediately and activates it. A new ability appears. It is called Pickpocket Casino. The description says that any player who looks at him for half an hour will lose 1,000 attribute points, which will temporarily transfer to John before returning to their original owner once the time is up. John asks the system if that's all, and the system confirms that it is. He frowns, unable to believe that something sounding this impressive only steals 1,000 attribute points at a time, and only works if someone stares at him for that long, thinking that in practice it may not be very useful. Then Ryuan finally wakes up. He clutches his head in pain, groaning that he has the worst headache. The fortune teller smiles and asks if he remembers losing 35 wives last night. Slowly, blurry scenes come back to him. He remembers flying through the air, leaping at a ghostly woman, and yelling about eternal love. He realizes what he's done and starts shaking with shame, overwhelmed by a full moral hangover as he throws up, crying. Between sobs, Ryuan apologizes to John, saying he has only dragged the team down and that if he's causing trouble, he's willing to quit and leave the team. John does not let him finish. Instead, John hands him some clothes and tells him something different, that the real hero last night was Ryuan. He tells Ryuan that without his distraction, John might have died, and that the equipment they found belongs to him, calling Ryuan an important member of the team. Ryuan tries to refuse, saying that being allowed to stay on the team is already more than enough. John cuts him off and tells them both the same thing, that he would never mistreat his teammates, and adds that he has something for the fortune teller as well. The fortune teller is shocked, not expecting this kind of generosity. She looks at him with bright eyes, as if she is looking at the main character in a romance story. Ryuan nods quickly and loudly repeats the same praise, saying their captain is amazing and kind. Both of them bow to John and promise to follow him forever, but he tells them to stop doing that. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.